Hey there!
How are you?
Superb. Happy to be space pogging.
Hey, indeed. Happy to meet you over the voice over the voice medium.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we're not doing video. I won't describe what I'm wearing, but
Nice. Yeah, I think everybody here subscribes to the sport coat top and shorts on the bottom for video call sort of way. So
that was a great business idea. I wish I'd thought of it.
nice. Well, I'm definitely glad to have you here. I think we're going to wait a few minutes for a few other people to come on in before we really get into it. But I'm happy to have you on and sort of give the opportunity to sort of speak about the passion that you guys have, which is for the conservation of rainforests and things. So I'm excited.
Right on. It's really, really excellent that you guys know about us and that you put us forward to be part of this adventure. And it's really fun talking about our work. It's kind of what we're all about. So if we can get someone to listen, just talk their ears off.
All right. Very cool. So as you may have been described before, this community is very big on informed community votes and sort of picking like a cause or a reason to sort of get together and really get to what we want to accomplish together. And so each tribe has sort of had the opportunity to sort of look for a charity that they want to sort of be able to put in a position like this, like we have with you today, and then see if we can sort of pick your brains a little bit and sort of get a little bit more informed before we decide to sort of bring it to a vote of, hey, do we feel comfortable supporting you in your cause? And from what I've personally read, I'm really excited like to have that opportunity for everybody here. And so that's a big part of it for me. So yeah, I'm gonna reiterate myself a couple times saying that I'm excited about it. So
Well, that's really
the pleasure is
cool.
mine. Yeah.
Right on. Thanks. The Daintree is not quite as well known as its neighbor, the Great Barrier Reef, and it's, if anything, as important. It's Australia's largest rainforest. It's Australia's most biodiverse rainforest, and the oldest, longest, continually surviving and evolving rainforest on the planet. So it's
Wow.
always wonderful when someone takes notice. And I hope that this is the beginning of great awareness or more greater awareness.
That's awesome. I really like that a lot, and I mean, especially for people. I mean, I'm talking from my experience a lot. The forest and the sort of the natural way and the environment is a little farther removed for some people living in cities and stuff. So, unless you really have time to sort of spend walking through a forest or along a trail, or getting in touch with nature and learning that respect for it. A lot of people don't get that exposure to sort of hear about the wonders of this and why it's important to protect it. So, another reason why I'm happy to be able to have conversations like this.
Right on. And I was really happy to see. I think it was it in Canada? I think it was in Canada where now doctors can actually prescribe time in nature for patients.
Oh,
And
that's amazing.
I know it's wonderful, and that came out of the well practiced and well revered Japanese practice of forest bathing, which they've been doing for millennia. Well, okay, let's say centuries. Let's just say a long time. But they know the value of a good forest and what it does for you. And oftentimes people will say, what can I do? What can I do to help? And I often say, go hang out with Dr. Nature. Dr. Nature will let you know, and Dr. Nature will inspire you. And I don't know if you've heard of E.O. Wilson. He's a famous biologist who put together a proposal that half the earth should be for people and half the earth should be wilderness for all wild creatures. And I believe that. We are a society that is absolutely driven by the concept of endless, unfettered growth, and we all know where that's leading. And
Yeah.
unless we start to put boundaries around, nature's home, nature's soul, nature's place where nature lives, it's not going to be there forever.
Hmm.
And I
It's
had a
it's Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's cool. I mean, literally, I can keep talking for hours, but but the whole give nature rights movement, it started with Ecuador giving rights to nature and putting that in their constitution. Subsequently, it was removed later. It turned out to be more for publicity, but there are other countries that have joined in now, and I'm seeing a greater interest in protecting bodies of water like lakes and rivers or forests themselves. And you start to think about, what we need as individuals. And I know I need some time to myself from time to time. And I like to think that we're giving nature the opportunity to have time to itself. And I was talking to someone about, what about nature's right to privacy? just as a just as an
Yeah.
idea. and
Yeah.
and and that idea of, how many of our myths and how many of those stories from our fairy tales as children were about the magical creatures and beings that inhabit, the heart of the forest, the
Mm,
secret places in the forest. Those places are harder and harder to come by. And the
true.
more I work in this space, I didn't always do conservation. I started as an activist, and then I moved from activist to advocate, and now I'm in conservation because you got to give nature those places. You got to let nature be, and it shouldn't be part of what's happening 24/7 on a screen, or everybody gets to have access to. Nature has rights to exist, and what we're doing in the Daintree is a really great way of picking a very discrete subject and trying to help give back what's been taken from it, and trying to promote awareness of just how special it is on its own, and that it needs its own space to be away from people.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that drives me most passionately about rainforest rescue, is just trying to put more of the forest that is protected back together and restore that which has been degraded. And so much of the degradation in the Daintree area has come from cattle. The first time I went up to the Daintree, the second time I went up to the Daintree, but when I was really aware and thinking about what was going on, I went into the upper Daintree, which, so like basically you follow the Daintree River, and up in the upper Daintree is Stewart Creek, and Stewart Creek looks like, I felt like all of a sudden I've been transported to like an English countryside where it was just
Oh,
pasture land. But it was, fringed by rainforest. And this area has been cattle country for, gosh, now at least 70 years, and it's starting to change, and being part of restoration and, increasing our capacity to create, propagate, and distribute genetically appropriate Daintree trees is helping to restore the upper Daintree. And that is a dream, like to actually fix that and pull that forest back together so that it can be whole again. That is magical dream, because it is not small. And one of the ways that that's going to happen is through partnerships. And that's one of the things that we've really been focusing on at Rainforest Rescue for the last few years, is developing partnerships that are going to extend our capacity so that we can do more. Because, one guy can maybe plant on a good day 300 trees, and I promise you that person is going to need a bath with bath salts and soft music and candles at the end of that. But you get a real restoration crew in there, and you have a plan, and you have a tree source, and you have a template for natural distribution that can mimic nature's style, at least in enough that it's going to help propagate and restore forest. It's amazing what we can achieve. And that's where we're aiming. That's the exciting kind of new focus for Rainforest Rescue is, yes, we will continue to rescue properties, and yes, we will continue to restore, but, we're starting a whole new program by building this new nursery. Currently we do 12,000 trees a year, and we're going to be moving that to 150,000 trees a year.
oh
And
wow.
yeah, like that's a big jump. And I know it's not a million trees a year, but it's a beginning. And right now, with what we're all facing climate wise, we can't get started fast enough. There's a great old Chinese proverb said the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the next best time is today. So we're planting as many trees as we can, and we're working with partners. Green Fleet, which is a not-for-profit organization here that does carbon offsets, not carbon credits, mind you, very different distinction. Carbon offsets that are starting to work with us on a restoration project up north. And then there's Queensland Trust for Nature that is interested in securing large blocks of land for restoration and helping with the restoration. And our partnership with Jabalbina Aboriginal Corporation is very exciting because, we're talking about the traditional owners of the land and working together to not just restore, heal country, heals people, and it's also helping share cultural knowledge, both sides, horticultural knowledge, cultural knowledge. It's really exciting, and we're in a position that we hadn't been in, and we're starting to see, broader horizon, and it gives me hope. And when we talk about climate issues, I'm over here in Australia in the Northern Rivers, and any of you folks who aren't neighbors probably saw on the news that it got pretty wet here recently. And it was tragically wet. In Lismore, which is one of the larger towns around here, I'll call it a city, they had 30,000 people who were displaced. 30,000 people in Australia, right? So, plant more trees. And I like to say trees are the answer, hashtag trees are the answer. Use it, get it out there. I think they are. Look, you probably want to start this now. I'll shut up.
Oh, I mean, we're sort of already right into it. I appreciate this. I sort of self-starting. Some of the best podcasts sort of get going for 15, 20 minutes and then just kind of turn on the camera at some point. But no, it's so nice to see you're clearly quite passionate about it, and to know that you've got such a history to come from different sort of angles of the same issues. Sort of it shows that experience when it comes to the conservation side of things, and sort of really what's important. It's great to hear that the nursery is going to be coming around. I think that's a really cool sort of addition. I wanted to know a bit more about sort of where things started and the journey that you took to get to where you are now, with the sort of the three different aspects that you've got: the reforestation, the conservation, and then sort of how much of that ties in with like wildlife. Like, is it specific to talking with people who are trying to preserve certain local species, or is it really just like that you're going for as much land as possible and anything inside of it is sort of bonus? I know there's probably way more thought that goes into that, but just wanted to see sort of sort of from roots to now, sort of what that journey looked like.
Sure. So Rainforest Rescue was started back in 1999, and initially, apparently, it was started as a fundraising arm for another organization, which is called the Big Scrub Land Care Group and Big Scrub Foundation. Big Scrub is focused on protecting what's left. Really, there's only 1% left of what was a massive, contiguous, ancient Gondwanan rainforest here in the Northern Rivers area where I live. One thing led to another. Rainforest Rescue shifted its attention to the Daintree because in the 80s, the government, in its great wisdom, decided to subdivide out the Daintree's lower Daintree area at the same time that the national park was established. So the upper Daintree is national park, is protected, or much of it is. The lower Daintree was subdivided out, and I think 1,100 blocks were basically established for build your home here, build your holiday home here, raise your kids in this tropical paradise where you will get dengue fever or perhaps the flesh-eating disease. Not a great place to live, but a lot of people moved in. Fortunately, the government shifted. The new government put $5 million towards buyback to include land that had been subdivided out back into the national park, but it didn't cover all of it. And I believe currently there's probably about 140 or 50 odd still could be rescued blocks of land. And those are the things that we focus on, but I'll get to that in a second. So we shifted our attention to the Daintree. Let's buy back and protect forever this incredible world's most ancient rainforest and protect the fauna and flora that are so rare. In the Daintree, you're going to find flora, ancient flowering plants, some of the first flowering plants in the world that still flower in the Daintree. You'll find them in other parts of the world in countries that were connected back when Gondwana was the whole big shebang. And you'll find them in the fossil record. You won't find them living anywhere else on the planet. So the Daintree is kind of like the world's refugia. I think of it as where the world came to life. And
Wow.
it's the original intact source of what has become, our beautiful planet that's forested with all this incredible diversity. And that's one of the many reasons why it's worth protecting. But anyway, we have been buying back rainforest. And when I say we protect it forever, what we do is we buy it, we strip the development rights, we then apply for a nature refuge designation. And that takes a little while, costs a little money. And once that happens, that's the best protection that we can give it under Australian law. There is a new refuge that's just come out called a special wildlife refuge.
Okay.
But that is still emerging. It's incredible protection. And when I say it's better than what we've got, a nature refuge will protect you unless the government decides it wants to cut the trees down or pull all of the coal out of the ground or put cattle there. But that's extremely unlikely. But that's one of the reasons, and one of the questions that people often ask me is, why don't you just put your rainforest blocks back into the national park? I'm like, well, because the national park is managed by the government, and we all know governments change, and national parks is also a way of considering where are our intact resources that could be exploited. So we're not going to put it back into the national park, and we'll continue to, we have a designated full-time, well, not quite full-time, but I'm working on him, land manager, and he splits his time between patrolling the properties, making sure that there aren't any weed infestations or people squatting or anything like that. And then the rest of his time is spent doing restoration projects. And we have 2 of those going at the moment. So rainforest rescue properties, save them forever, protect them. And then we absorbed a small organization, the Daintree Rainforest Foundation, and they came with some blocks that they had rescued. And they
Okay.
also came with a small nursery. And that small nursery, this was about 12 years ago. That small nursery is what we still have today, and it puts out about 12,000 trees a year. And from that, we have managed to plant, gosh, well, we got a lot of our trees also from the council nursery back in the day, but we've done 280,000 almost trees in Australia, most of those in the Daintree area, but we did a significant amount of restoration work down here in the Northern Rivers area. But the plan now with the new nursery, because we recognized global warming, trees in the ground, carbon drawn from the atmosphere, extra benefits, buffer the Daintree proper. That is to say, wherever we can provide buffer for the core of that forest, that's going to help it weather everything from cyclones to climate change. So buffering is a good thing. It also helps us to establish new habitat for rare and threatened endemic species to the Daintree. So yes, restoration is good, but let's do more of it. And that has led us to this new program that is going to be all about propagation. So buyback and rescue, restore, and now propagate. And the propagation, as I mentioned earlier, is taking us up from 12,000 a year to 150,000 a year. Probably going to take us about 2 years to get to that capacity output. But not only are we going to be increasing our output by almost 1,200%, but we're also going to be hiring in an area that is traditionally very difficult for people to find employment in. And we've managed to secure support from one of the coolest foundations in Australia. And I say that in all truth. I don't know, any of you guys out there, if you've ever had to seek funding and going through a foundation, first of all, it's hard to get to the front door just to knock on the door. And then once you get into the waiting room, it's hard to get anyone to make eye contact with you. Once you
Right.
get through the process of actually, okay, well, you guys seem okay. You can do an LOI, a letter of introduction, a letter of interest. And then you're like, wow, they said there's going to be 20 of these out there and they're only going to let 1 or 2 in. And then you get through that. And then they start to look at you different. They actually look you in the eye and they're like, wow, that's really interesting. Well, good luck if you need any help. So you put together your best outfit and you show up to the party and you win the prize and it's incredible. And then all of a sudden, these people who had to have this distance turn out to be just the warmest, most lovely, friendly, helpful people in the world. And they're really,
Wow.
I think, just trying to protect themselves because they know not everybody is actually going to get to come through and stay with them for a while. But this foundation, the E&F Potter Foundation, saw value in what we were doing, and not just because of the restoration and the propagation and the Daintree and its protected World Heritage Site, but it also is going to provide jobs for the local community. Now, that's super cool. Next level, another foundation is very excited about supporting jobs for the local community, and they're going to help us by providing salaries for traditional owners. So the new nursery is now going to probably double Rainforest Rescue's staff. Currently, we have almost 8 people. I say almost 8 people. It's probably more like 6 people if you did them full time. But we have quite a few folks who just work part time, and there's 8 of us. With the new nursery, we're looking at 6 full time positions. Plus, we're adding on 2 positions for traditional owners who will be working through our partners, Javelbina Aboriginal Corporation. So this other foundation saw the opportunity to support traditional owner employment as well as training in horticultural techniques and practices. But also, we get to learn about the cultural and traditional meaning, uses, perceptions of these incredible plants from the Daintree. And the Daintree is incredibly biodiverse, and there are plenty of species that have not been identified in the Daintree. I keep seeing references to it in documents from, say, some of the government agencies in Queensland, and it seems unbelievable. How do you quantify how many species are still out there that you haven't identified? But they say there's plenty, and I believe them. I don't tend to traipse around in the Daintree deeply because it's hard to get into. It's not like Yosemite National Park. There's no trails through it. You literally drive through or drive around the edge of it, and there are boardwalks that you can walk through that have been set up. It's actually very well set up from a conservation protection point of view. That is the parts of the Daintree that are protected. The stuff that people want to build holiday houses on or start, businesses on, those there are still plenty of those. And you asked about how Rainforest Rescue, chooses, what it is we're going to rescue. Mm-hmm. And, does it have to do with the critters that are in there, or, what are the things about it? We're very careful with the money that people donate to us. We don't get a lot. Our budget right now is $1.5 million, and that is increased. It's doubled in the last 2 years. And in those 2 years, we've increased our capacity for buyback. We've increased our capacity for propagation, and we've renewed and changed the systems within the organization such that now we have increased capacity to go out and help protect these critters and help protect this flora. And the system that we use to basically vet properties before we would buy them with our limited funds that are given to us by our donors specifically so that we will rescue and protect rainforests forever, we have to be thoughtful. So we have a 20-point scorecarding system that looks at everything from biodiversity, connectivity, canopy structure, wholeness, development, locations nearby, what it's adjacent to in terms of other protected areas, be it national park or nature refuges or indigenous protected areas. And once we score a property and we decide whether or not it's a good buy, then we will start raising money for it. And the Daintree is home to, oh my God, I should actually have notes up in front of me for this because numbers are not my forte. But Mary Beth, who magically is seeding our chat with information. Thank you, Mary Beth. You're fantastic. We would be dead without you at Rainforest Rescue.
I was going to say, how are you able to chat so fluently and also be posting these images? But now I know that the secret is out. Thank you very much. No, it's great to have the visual media to go along with what you're saying. It's a treat. Thank you.
Well, that's cool. No, and I just want to celebrate Mary Beth. She's tireless. She's in fact, our office in the Northern River is flooded, and our team is distributed all over the place. And Mary Beth, being both our office manager and our social media manager, was right there to help our landlord muck out the office. One day there was Mary Beth, myself, our friend and then 3 volunteers. It was quite an amazing experience. We'll talk about that later. But she's a machine, in the words of one of the people who showed up, and she is fantastic. So thank you, Mary Beth, for being here today to help us tell the story of Rainforest Rescue. And within what Mary Beth has there, there's a presentation, and if anyone wants to get, the facts, the full picture, all in one place, that PDF is a really great resource because it will tell you about the numerous species that are part of why the Daintree is so special. But anyway, we only choose rainforest that has significant connectivity. We only choose rainforest that has, significant species diversity. We only choose rainforest that is, well developed and not damaged to any great degree. Sometimes we'll buy something that needs a bit of restoration, but the goal is really to protect intact habitat. Some of the critters in the Daintree that you may have heard of that are completely amazing animals. If you've never seen a cassowary, it's kind of like an ostrich, but it looks like an ostrich that will kill you. Right? Like this very hardcore velociraptor kind of bird.
Uh,
Um,
is
and
is it the
and it
one with the
looks
blue
like
head?
it's the one with the blue neck, and it's got a red
Yeah.
head, and it's got a blue, white, red head, and it looks like it's covered with fur, but those are actually feathers. They're split down the middle. It's a completely far out critter,
Oh
and
wow.
it's funny. They've been much maligned because people say, they will kill you. Stay away from cassowaries. They're only going to attack you if you threaten their kids or if you threaten them. Generally, they're just curious, and they'll walk right past you, walk right around you, and they are amazing. One of the things I love about them, two things, two cool facts about the cassowary. One, the male raises the young, and so if you
Oh,
ever see a
interesting.
cassowary in the wild and it's trailing some chicks or some teenagers, that's a male. And the females lay green eggs.
Oh, okay. Is
Right. So
there
for
like
you,
a specific reason for the green coloration that we know?
I think that they were inspired by Dr. Seuss's writing, and they decided that
Okay.
green eggs would be cool. I actually, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I just think they are fantastic. And then, in addition to the, it's terrible to say things like it's like I love frogs, and the Daintree is home to some endemic frogs that you'll only find there. But
Hmm.
it's the spotted tail quolls are amazing. They are near threatened. They are carnivores, and they're actually like beastie little predators. And there aren't that many predators in the Daintree, so to speak. So they're one to watch for, and they're actually quite cute.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, the tree kangaroo is amazing. It's very hard to find tree kangaroos in the wild, and they literally are tree kangaroos. They're just kangaroos that live in the tree. They look a little bit different, but not so different that you don't say, "Wow, look, there's a kangaroo in the tree." And there are two that are endemic to the wet tropics. One is Bennett's tree kangaroo, and the other is the Lumholtz tree kangaroo. And if you actually get to see one of those in the wild, I don't know, buy a lottery ticket, do something quick because they're very sneaky, stealthy, and hard to pick. Generally, I only find tree kangaroo sign like scratches on trees or maybe some tree kangaroo scat. But I have yet to see one in the Daintree. I've seen them in other places, but not in the Daintree. And then we've got musky rat kangaroos, which are also adorable. Look, I can just say if I just say marsupial, we know it's adorable, and
Yeah.
most of the critters up there in the furry category would be marsupial. We've also got flying foxes, which we have all over Australia, but I always like to put a word in for them because they are beautiful and really gentle and really necessary as a seed disperser and a pollinator, and they're endangered. They're one of the critters up there that is most affected by climate change, global warming. We had a heat wave in Cairns a couple of years ago, and half of the flying fox population died as a result. They just can't survive above
Oh
45
no.
degrees Celsius. Yeah, yeah. But there are plenty of them up there, and if anybody ever has the chance to come visit the Daintree, it will be one of the things that you think on for the rest of your life. It is a truly incredible place. Um, did I answer your question sufficiently for
Oh,
what makes us
absolutely.
just all right, all right. Well,
Absolutely. No,
otherwise I'll just keep babbling.
I was actually going to ask, sort of following, talking about a little bit about the critters, wondering if you've had opportunity or if there's much sort of interest locally about critter conservation. If there's any sort of people that come forth and ask to sort of traipse along the line to take surveys and things, or if that's sort of like internal observation and just live and let live and um, it's not up to us type of thing. I'm wondering what the level of involvement is of like if you were to see a rare creature, if there's somebody that you tend to call for that sort of thing.
Right. There actually are different groups that are, some of them are official, and some of them are more, just kind of like citizen science or people who are interested in. But the cassowary recovery team is something that Rainforest Rescue's been involved with for, I think we were part of starting it. It was a long time ago, before my time.
Mm-hmm.
And the cassowary recovery team is doing its best to track cassowary numbers, to try to help prevent threats to cassowaries. It's difficult because the number one threat to cassowaries, and one of the reasons why we're trying to reduce the number of developed or developable blocks up in the Daintree, is car strikes. Tourists and locals. Actually, it's probably more locals, but I don't have any empirical evidence. But car strikes are one of the biggest threats to cassowaries, and then next to that is dogs. And those are two clear reasons why Rainforest Rescue exists. It's there. The Daintree is a World Heritage wonder. David Attenborough says it's his favorite place in the world, and yet,
Wow. Quite the review.
because of it was incredible review, and because of one government that decided to, boost the budget and commercialize this incredible resource for settlement. That's why we have cassowaries being hit by cars up there, and that's why we have people with dogs. Now, that said, one of the challenges working in the Daintree, in the wet tropics, in the Daintree area, is that there are people who live there, and there are people who absolutely have every right to live there, haven't done anything wrong. They bought their property, it was legal. They built a house, it was legal. They've raised their kids there. They've got a job, whatever. They have a place there. And we are very careful not to work against them. We were working really hard to work with the local communities, and we're very pro ecotourism. We're very pro thoughtful tourism. There are, as you might imagine, since we're talking Great Barrier Reef and Daintree, the whole Cape Trib zone up there, it's a huge draw for people. One of, I think, Queensland's biggest income generator is tourism. It's such an amazing place. We have to live with tourism. We have to live with tourism vans driving up and down the roads. So, we do our best to help educate the public. We're actually talking right now about doing a new signage program that sounds so uninspiring, but we were throwing around ideas, and you see those LED, watch your speed signs nowadays that are very common. It gives you a frowny face. Well, we were like, well, what if instead of a frowny face, it just showed like a dead cassowary in profile on the ground? Or I don't know. Like we're actually trying to find ways to get people to just be conscious that they're not just driving down a road, on their way somewhere. They're actually driving through one of the rarest ecologies on the planet. And, they have a duty of care to not, run into the critters that are there. It's not your neighbor's dog, it's one of the 1,300 cassowaries that are left, in the entire region. So,
I mean, personally speaking, if ever I've seen a sign of a turtle with the tire marks over it as an indicator that there's local wildlife around, I often cringe to myself thinking I would not ever want to run over a turtle. So I can see how how sort of putting that literal, hey, this is what happens in front of somebody's face could maybe get them to think twice about, like you said, they're on land that means something. It's not just, point A to point B and whatever I hit on the way is the coincidence.
indeed, and I think if I ever were to run, if I were to ever run into a cassowary, I would have to resign. It would just be the worst thing in the world. So when I'm up in the Daintree, I probably drive more conservatively than anybody. And they come out of nowhere. You really have to be on your toes. I've had cassowaries run out I had to stop the car to let them cross the road. That's happened twice, and
Well, like
once it was with miles.
once it was with, sorry.
Oh, juveniles, kids,
Oh
little
shoot.
cassowaries. Yeah, right.
Oh shoot.
But it's all good.
Sort of getting back to what you were saying about nature having its space and being able to respect its existence, and the fact that we're sort of here to share the space. It's kind of interesting to literally draw a line with pavement and sort of have to define where that line is, and walking along it, with respect and driving a little bit slower. I'm sure it ends up to be a nice sort of scenic drive anyways. So what's the big deal, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I think it's tough for the people who live there. If you're trying to get from your home to your work and you're late, there you go. It's one of
Mm.
those things. But recently the Aboriginal Corporation managed to get new signage in the Daintree area that basically denotes the different areas according to traditional owner awareness and knowledge. And you see these beautiful signs now that have, they're black with very brilliant white writing on them, and it gives you the traditional name for the area you're coming through. So Daintree River is Jule, and Daintree Rainforest is Jule Maja, and there's a lot of different spots that you come across, and I think that's a good example of let's do more to inform people. I was amazed actually to see this old Daintree Welcome to the Daintree Tourism sign out in front of the old Cow Bay airstrip, which is where we're putting the new nursery. And it's just this ancient sign that's faded. You could barely see it. I took a picture and turned up the contrast, and I could just about read it. And it's like, this place is a sacred place. If people come through here, they should recognize that there's a lot of care that goes into protecting it. So anyway, one of the things that I want to do is work with the council to do more for informing, communicating to people just how special this place is and to take better care of it. And the location that we're putting the new nursery at, as I mentioned, the old Cow Bay airstrip, this was a really cool story. A friend called and she said, Brandon, the old Cow Bay airstrip is for sale. We have to rescue. We have to buy it. We can't let it get turned into an active airstrip again. Because if it was an active airstrip, then you've got people coming in with their planes. You've got people who want to have their, holiday homes. Anyway, it would just bring a lot more development. And I made one phone call, and that phone call was to some friends who, as a family, do what Rainforest Rescue does. They buy rainforest, turn it into a nature refuge, and then leave it alone. Kind of like Chris and Doug Tompkins, but at a lower level, right? Like Chris and Doug Tompkins from Patagonia, who established the Patagonia National Park in Chile. All right,
Yeah.
incredibly inspiring. Anyway, I called them and they said, "Oh, well, let's check it out." And within a month, they had bought the property and they had invited us to put our new nursery on it. And there's 16 hectares that need to be restored, and 110 hectares that are intact. And it's an incredible location. Like
Oh wow.
it's bordered by two deep water creeks. And here's another example of like how weird it is that people live there in this really wild environment. There's a guy who rescues horses, and he'll graze his horses at different places, and he'll keep them in a certain area with a portable electric fence. And someone, when he was grazing his horses at the airstrip, had done something to remove part of the electric fence, and one of the horses got out and walked down to one of these deep water creeks and didn't come back. But a crocodile had an amazing meal, and
Oh no.
that's what we're dealing. That's where our nursery is going to be. Watch where you go, buddy system.
Yeah, right in the thick of it. Seriously.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's cool. So talking about challenges, I mean, dealing with the locals, trying to get them to sort of see the not the value of what you're doing, but sort of see the forest for the forest, I guess. Um, but and also crocodiles. I'm wondering if there's like any other sort of big challenges you face, maybe when it comes to getting that protected status, or like what a big challenge is for you that usually stands in the way um, of what you do. Is it the pushback from people who want to develop? Do you ever get into sort of like a bid war with somebody who's actively trying to use the land for something else?
Well, we only have had one person once try to snake a property that we had an agreement already with the owner on. But normally, we aren't looking at properties that are, popping up on realestate.com. Most of the time it's because we've we've got maps that show all of the blocks, and we also overlay that with the different ecotypes and the different endangered systems, the different, species that are in those different ecotypes. And that helps us identify the areas that we want to expand upon. And we'll go to council, get the information on the people that own the different blocks in that area, and the blocks that aren't developed are the ones that we will then approach. And we'll ask them, hey, would you be interested in selling your rainforest block? We've promised to protect it forever and take good care of it, and we'll give you a fair price. But that doesn't always happen. Sometimes the market is cold. Sometimes people are just quite happy to sit on their undeveloped rainforest block. And, there's a block that I've been talking to the owner about, and this was literally one of those, well, reach out to the guy and see if it works. And he's he was really hot and really excited about it. And then all of a sudden it's like, he and his significant other had a conversation and they just said, no, we're not going to sell it. But they're also not planning to develop it. They do run cattle on the only area that is cleared on their 150-hectare block. But it's not under threat of, development or anything. If anything, it would just be nice to know that that land was going to be protected forever. But I think one of the big challenges is finding appropriate blocks on a regular basis. There's another organization that does buyback in the Daintree, and they're buying everything. Whatever comes up on the list. But I wouldn't do that because it's increasing prices. It's not prioritizing high value conservation rainforest, and it's pissing off the locals. When I was talking about that balance between working with the people who live there and nature. And if it appears that you're in there and you're just trying to displace people, they're going to get angry at you. And that's what's happening with this other group. And it's kind of, we're getting some blowback from that. And while I respect wanting to, buy up everything and prevent development, I think that there is only so much money to go around, and you need to be really thoughtful about how you deploy that. And you also need to be really careful about how you tell your story. Without going too deeply into it, we have a very strong ethical line about how we talk about what we do. We promise to do what we do, and we'll do it. And that also means that we're going to limit what we buy and, why we buy it. So in terms of those kinds of challenges, the market is challenging. And then the local community can be challenging if it appears that we're, displacing people. You're always going to get people who, or for want of a better word, I'm not going to use that word. People who don't like conservationists.
Okay.
There's just always going to be that. But that hasn't been too bad. There was a really odd thing that happened recently where, all right, everyone, I'm going to tell you about a mistake we made.
Okay, let's do it. The good and the bad.
It actually had a really cool outcome because, there's a chat, there's a Facebook group that's focused on the Daintree, and it's only for people who live up there. So none of us the people who are in the organization who live up in that area are a part of it, but I'm not a part of it, or hadn't been a part of it, and don't know what goes on. I just know that there's a lot of criticism of conservation groups. And this Facebook ad, we never do Facebook ads. Like, we just hadn't been set up for it. And, we want to grow our donor base because we want to increase the number of people that both appreciate rainforests, that want to protect the Daintree, and that want to support our work and, help spread the word. But we had to get a lot of things in place to make it happen. We finally got it going. I'm like, for 3 years, I've been saying, come on, guys, we got to get some Facebook and Instagram advertising going. So we finally get it together. And then, because of one mistake, the draft text that was written by someone who's not even part of the organization wound up being the Facebook ad. And it was really just, it sounded like if an environmental revolutionary had gotten a hold of the ad and wrote the text for it. And I woke up in the morning to a couple of text messages, of voicemail messages, and a bunch of emails saying, "What the hell is this?" So instantly, we took it down, and I got some screenshots from that Facebook group, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden, Rainforest Rescue was, just as bad as the other groups. And all they care about is fundraising. In fact, it was Rainforest Rescue joins the bullshit brigade. So I called the guy who's behind it, and he's kind of like the unofficial mayor of Cape Tribulation. So you don't want to be on his bad side. I don't need to be his best buddy, but I certainly don't want him thinking that we are, revolutionaries trying to drive people out of the Daintree and to stop the quote suburbanization of nature. Anyway, we wound up having a really great conversation, and I wrote a response to the flames that he had put out there, and he put it up there for me, to his credit. And now Rainforest Rescue is going to hold a community engagement forum up in the Daintree community, and we're going to invite everyone there to come meet us and find out who we are and who we're not, and what we do and what we don't do. And nobody's done that before, and you would think, well, that's kind of a no-brainer, but it's like, well, up until recently we were like 4 people, and now we're kind of 8 people, and we're getting our act together, and we're also not trying to spend a bunch of money on stuff that's not conservation focused. We're trying to develop our other programs so that we grow at an appropriate rate. The worst thing for a nonprofit organization is to be sitting on a bunch of money and not doing something with it. And this is my first time running an organization. I've been involved in the nonprofit sector for 25 years, but mostly I was part of the leadership team as a fundraising director. So there are a whole lot of fun experiences I've had here doing this, and it's it's um, it's great to get it right, and you're going to have to make some mistakes along the way. And it's been 3.5 years that I've been here now, and I feel like the organization is in a really good place. Everything from moving from that horrifying database. And I'm guessing that with folks who are savvy about Nifties and crypto and Discord, we've all experienced the horror of a user like aggressively unfriendly database. Well, that's
Oh
what we
yes.
used to have. That's what we had. So just trying to communicate with our supporters was a challenge. And now we're on Salesforce, and that was like a big move. It took us 8 months to do the whole transition after we, established everything that needed to go in. And that's one example of how we've, moved away from inefficiencies so that we can do a better job of communicating with more people and managing more relationships authentically, as well as, moving the things that were, and once upon a time would have been destroyed by this flood are now in the cloud. Things like our financial systems, like, hooray, we don't have a server in the room in the back anymore. And
Right.
we've also started to grow, our program areas. When this new nursery kicks in, and I think it'll probably be, let's see, the council's voting on it on April 26th. Everybody light a little candle, say a little prayer, whatever you want to do. It should be fine, though. I know the council's very supportive, and we've done everything that the planners have asked to make sure that we're doing it right for the Daintree and for the environment and for the future. And then the construction will begin. When I say construction, none of it is going to be permanent. Like, we are agreeing that should we be asked to leave after 20 years, we would be able to remove everything with no problem. And then we restore that just less than half a hectare. It's going to be
Oh,
fun
that's
watching the
amazing.
area. The area around the nursery is going to just, grow into this rainforest while we're there. And we should probably have it done by July, August. And then it's going to get interesting. Then we're running a whole other business. That's a whole nother learning jump for me and for the nursery manager. And we'll be effectively doubling our the number of employees. And we couldn't be happier. Like,
That's exciting. Yeah.
it's really exciting, man. I mean, it's not, I definitely don't think any of us are in it for the money. If we are, we definitely could see a counselor. And it's fun, like last night I was, I don't know, it was 7 or 8 o'clock, and I was just editing the first annual report we're going to have since 2014. Like, there's really good stuff happening. I know Mary Beth was up late last night putting together some ideas for things that we could share with you guys today. And it's because, we're all in it to protect and support and rally around nature. And when we look at the challenges that we're facing, like the floods that we've got going on here, like the bushfires, like the droughts, like everything that is obviously climate change, which we've been saying for 35 years is coming. Can we please do something about it? Well,
Mm.
it's the 12th hour, and it's time to do everything we can and pull out all the stops. And I have hope. We were talking the other day, when you so kindly introduced me to Discord, and we were talking about the different ways that things could actually get better. And I mentioned that book that I'm reading by Kim Stanley Robinson, Ministry for the Future. Those kinds of things mean that there are still opportunities to effect the great U-turn. And I think Rainforest Rescue is one of those organizations, because of the passion of our staff, because of the charismatic nature of the Dane tree itself and the incredible plethora of plants and animals that are incredibly charismatic and engaging. We have an opportunity and therefore an obligation to do everything we can to inspire the world to give a shit about nature. We have to do everything we can to make nature paramount. And that's exciting. And that's why we're in it. And that's why you guys are interested in what we're doing. And I'm really glad to be able to talk to people who care about this as much as we do, or hopefully, are caring more about it. Because without our environment, without the trees, without the biodiversity and that amazing web of life, we don't have a future. And it's really game time, man, like never before. And I'm grateful that there are so many organizations in the world working to better our lot with regards to climate and with regards to how we treat and relate to nature. And if it weren't for this, then yeah, I guess I would have to go into running a hedge fund, investment banking, all of those things that mean nothing
Yeah.
ultimately. Yeah. And hopefully
Well,
everybody recognized the book plug there. Ministry for the Future. I'm almost done. It really gets into decarbonization and using a carbon coin and carbon taxing. And it's absolutely inspiring. It's a great book.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that in my cart right now, and I'm going to give that a
Copies
read.
for everyone.
Yeah. Let me just see if there's a group Kindle I can get.
Yeah,
No.
there you go.
Um, Oh, that's really great. I want to. I mean, not that we're necessarily done, but I just wanted to say I want to thank you for the passion that you've brought to this today. I think that it's very important, like you said, to get more people trending on giving a shit and thinking about the environment as something that isn't just there for us if we choose to continue to pave through it. It's something that we need to do something about right now. I think that I'm so happy that I've been able to ask you the questions that I have about this because, from just seeing the pictures on the website of what you do, and everybody's always smiling. That's the biggest thing, right? Not just for the camera, but you could see everybody's, really excited to be there because I feel like you're actually exacting change. It must be such a treat to be able to see the difference that the tree planting is making on the buffer, like you said, you're trying to make around the rainforest. And then I'm so excited for you to see the nursery come into effect and be able to start that new chapter for the organization. Um,
It,
and
it is.
and
It is.
really
It is
cool too
such.
that just to
It's
say
such a
too.
new.
Oh,
Go
go ahead,
ahead.
go ahead. Sorry. No, no, go ahead. Please.
Oh, no, no, no. Please, you first. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say ditto on the other organizations coming around to being able to speak with people and have this opportunity like we have today to really sort of connect with each other on a real level and be able to discuss this stuff. Whereas it used to be in a classroom on if a teacher happened to care enough to be excited enough to talk about the forest and rainforest, then we get that period to talk about it, and that's about all the exposure that like again coming from my own experience a city boy would get to be able to talk about the importance of this and to have that respect for nature.
It's funny. Two things I want to say real quick. One, you refer to yourself as a city boy. I grew up in Southern California in Los Angeles. And I grew up not only in Los Angeles, but in the Inland Empire. If anybody knows the Inland Empire, I challenge you to find more of an armpit from which to come when it comes to the environment, because we're talking about freeway suburbia land and malls. I went to high school in Montclair, California, Southern California, and our big attraction was the Montclair Plaza, which was a mall. And it is just incredible that I'm doing what I do now. And that came directly from nature's inspiration. I can think of a few experiences in my life that really caused me to stop and recognize that I am part of something greater and that I owe everything to it. And it just became natural to want to be supportive of that. And it's what gives my life meaning. And I'm grateful for that. And then the other thing that you said, when you were referring to see the growth and, this restoration work, I don't know if I've conveyed enough how amazing it is that we've gone from 12,000 trees a year on this little plot that used to be sugarcane, which is a truly cool example of, putting nature back. And this was based on a template that was created by our scientific advisor, who's one of the world's foremost rainforest ecologists. And the idea is to create, as quickly as possible, a closed canopy to reduce the amount of competition that the emerging rainforest has from invasive weeds. Now, we did that at this old oil palm plantation, and now we're doing it at this sugarcane plantation. But the project that we're just starting on, which is at the top of the upper Daintree that I mentioned, like, we're supposed to do the first 3 hectares of what's a 150 hectare block of land. And we're only going to be able to do that by partnering with Javelbina and Green Fleet and Queensland Trust for Nature. But we can do it because of that. And now, instead of saying, look, we did 27 hectares, look, we did 15 hectares, we're going to be able to say we contributed to doing 150 hectare restoration that expanded the rainforest in that area that significantly. And in addition to that, Queensland Trust for Nature has this 300 hectare block that we're going to provide the trees for, and that they and Green Fleet and Javelbina are going to replant with these trees. And that's 300 hectares. And at the rate that we're going to be doing trees from now, like, within 10 years, we will have done our first 1 million trees from the new nursery. And within 25 years, we're projecting to be able to do, 30 million trees? Like,
oh, that's amazing.
A lot, not 30, sorry, 3 million trees. Jesus, 30 million trees. I mean, I wish we could do that. Maybe we'll be doing that somewhere else. But the whole thing about what we're doing, it's all about conscious and thoughtful expansion, so that we're not going to become part of the problem. We're going to be supporting and part of the solution. And like I said, I believe and we believe that trees are the answer. And we'll continue to protect and buy back and protect, and we're going to continue to restore. And now we're going to propagate as much as we can. And, that's only possible because people give a shit. So again, I'm really, really grateful for the invitation to be here with you guys today. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to be able to share this with you. Does anybody else have any questions or anything? Like, I've never done an AMA.
You took the words directly out of my mouth. I was just going to suggest that if anybody listening wants to shoot a question over, definitely, if you wanted to pop it in the flight deck chat or even in general, I'm more than happy to voice the question for you and get an answer. I know there's a few people who liked who ask a few questions in particular usually. So anybody who's interested, definitely come on down. Yeah, but that's great. So in the meantime, I'll sort of pose a sort of maybe a vague question for the future sort of thing of the organization. Do you feel like there's going to be a certain point at which you can sort of like dust off your hands and sort of move on to a new area? Like, is this going to be, like, as far as you can see, the area that you want to protect and work towards, even if there's no more land to buy up? At that point, do you see maybe potentially working with organizations looking at the wildlife there? Do you have dreams of that, or is it sort of like, it's tree time, let's get going?
No, absolutely. Like, we're only able to expand our capacity right now because of these new partnerships. And I really believe that one of the weaknesses and one of the potential strengths and active strengths of the environmental movement comes from our partnerships. The number of times I've talked with people who said, man, wouldn't it be great if all the environmental groups would work together? I'm like, yeah, wouldn't that be great? And that's the goal, right? That's the goal, is by through these partnerships, we extend our reach, we extend our capacity. And yes, the Daintree, but it's not just the Daintree that we're interested in. Our mission is to protect rainforests forever. And it was really funny when I took the job. I came back from California. I actually have lived in Australia and the United States both almost an equal amount. But when I came back from the US this last time to take over at Rainforest Rescue, I got in an argument with our chair because she was like, "Well, our focus is the Daintree," and I'm like, "But it says protect rainforests with an S forever." And now I'm like, okay, we're small, and this is what our capacity allows. But as we grow and as we extend our reach and capacity through partnerships, yeah, I want us to be able to help protect and restore other parts of Australia and other parts of the world. I don't know. We need to be useful. This is not about building an empire. So if it's useful
Yeah.
and if it's necessary, we'll do it. But right now, I think one of the biggest opportunities we have is to become more of a voice for the rainforest, to become more of a place for information. Like, I want to do a curricular program that has all kinds of great information for kids and students from kindergarten all the way up to people who are working on their advanced degrees at university. And there are plenty of opportunities to do it. I defy anyone to go out there and find anything like that available online right now. And if you do, please send it to me, because I want to work with them and help promote what they're doing, because that's what the world needs more of. It needs more understanding and it needs more awareness. So I think, what we're doing is great, but when I think about our growth, it's really going to come through partnerships and communications. So doing a better job and a more complete job in a way that's exciting and enticing and informative with our communications is going to help.
I mean, I think that that idea is very strong, and kind of there's parallels even in the NFT space. I mean, some collaborations and partnerships between projects equal out to a better community experience and more knowledge of what's out there, some of the technologies and just vibes, so to speak, that other people offer, and together stronger. So I fully see what you're saying there, and that's amazing. I'm seeing some pictures here from the 2019 tree planting. I see also that your next annual tree planting day is coming up in about a month. I guess that would be a pretty good time too, to be able to try to like really accentuate or communicate the importance of what you're doing to the locals.
It's certainly a great opportunity for people to come together. And one of the things that we're trying to do more this year than we have in the past, even though we always try to do more, we're always concerned about making sure that the local communities know that they're invited and that it's fun, and that it's fun for the whole family. Like, some of my favorite pictures when I look back on the tree plantings are always of kids. It's these kids who are engaging with new trees and putting them in the ground, and that's beautiful. And if anybody who's listening happens to be in Australia and feels like being in far north Queensland on April 30th, come on out. We'll buy you lunch too. It's a really great day. And we do small ones too. We have smaller tree plantings as well during the year. We've just started doing that in the last couple of years. And we're hoping to do more and more. I think that community tree plantings are a really great way to connect people with Dr. Nature.
I love it. I love that Dr. Nature wording too. I think that's very important. Like you're saying,
Use it.
the
Tell
time
everyone.
and yeah, and being a Canadian myself, I'm going to look into getting a prescription for some of that time and space, like you said. Is that was that what you called it? Time and space?
No, no. It was getting a prescription for it's like it was like your prescription would be to go out and spend time in nature.
Right,
So
but
the idea is,
there was a wording, it sounded, it had a zing to it. What you said, it was like not time and space, but it was like anyways.
yeah, it'll come back. If this is
Yeah, yeah.
recorded, we can go back and listen to it.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Woo!
The wonders of technology.
Wow, I just realized that I could look at the chat. I'm sorry, I used to be really good with technology. I just didn't want to switch over to the chat because I was afraid that I would get disconnected, but I came back to the chat, and man, this is so cool. All these pictures, Barry Beth, you're rocking it. This is great.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's been great to have the visual as we've been going through.
It's so good. There also are some really great videos on our YouTube channel, and there's also, I think, in the PDF that she uploaded earlier, one of those pages has a link to the kind of the greatest hits. You know, some of the cool media that's out there that people have created for us, or
Oh,
that our
nice.
wonderful videographers created. Yeah, it's really cool. We're actually doing a media contest right now where we're inviting the world to share their rainforest pictures. It's called the Canopy Awards. I think it's canopyawards.com. You know, we do so much, I even forget which URL it was that I registered. But
Oh, that's very cool. Oh,
it's on our web. Oh, look, canopyawards.org. Thanks, Mary Beth. And yeah, and it got extended because the floods messed everything up. I think we still have, Mary Beth, is it all this week and next week, or is it just this week? We'll see what she says. She knows everything.
3 days, 11 hours, 54 minutes, and 9 seconds left.
Okay, right on. So, and
There's
it's
a
not like you
countdown on
have to
the
go do it. If
website.
anybody has, oh, cool. If anybody has pictures of rainforest or rainforest critters that you've taken in the past, please join in. There's some cool prizes too.
That's very cool. I'm gonna read that, and I'm gonna enjoy sort of chewing on some of this YouTube stuff that you've got here in the links afterwards. Not to mention the book that you mentioned. Very nice plug
Yes,
right there.
fantastic book, and you know, and I had been hoping that oh boy, what was the name of that book that came out recently that I got so excited about? The Understory. I don't know if anybody out there read The Understory, and I thought, oh wow, here's this book that's going to like make everybody feel great about protecting forests and trees. And then I got to the end of the book, and I was like, oh man, that was so depressing. Why did I read that book? Well, the Ministry for the Future is not like that. This is a very cool, very techie oriented, but very human book. I'm really enjoying it. I'm going to have to send Kim Stanley Robinson a Rainforest Rescue T-shirt.
Cool. I very much look forward to reading that. And I wanted to thank you again for coming on and spending the time with us and communicating your passion. I can clearly see that it's a passion for you, and I'm not very good with words in this very moment, but I feel intensely for what you're saying about how people need to sort of wake up and sort of see what there is in front of us, and that it needs to be respected and given its space. I think that's a very big takeaway for me. And when you said, you know, sort of started in the armpit of a city for you, and sort of you found your appreciation for nature, in, if I'm understanding you correctly, in that way, you know, I do seek nature. I do love camping. My profile name is NatureNuts. You know, I was in scouting for a lot of my life, but you know, the whole idea of I'm nowhere near nature, so it's not as relevant to me, is something that I need to definitely shake out of my way of thinking, because you know, it doesn't matter how far away I am. The capacity for change and being able to make a difference and talk about making a difference is right here. So that's something I'm going to personally take away from our conversation. So I thank you for that, and then again for coming on and being able to share this with us.
Oh
I
yeah,
love that we have the opportunity to be able to talk with you, and hopefully be able to come to an agreement on being able to make a donation.
well, that is really cool. And, you know, everything that is coming into Rainforest right now, Rainforest Rescue right now, is helping Rainforest Rescue extend our capacity. Like that is our mantra right now. It's really about growth. And it's not growth of organization, it's growth of effect. And we're really thoughtfully working to build the foundation within the organization in terms of roles. Like there's two roles that I really want to fill. Well, three roles. One, we really need a communications manager, you know, and that's just, you know, that's at the top priority for me, because right now so much of what we do is generated by staff. And you know, we have had some contractors, and that's been terrific, but I really need to prioritize in the budget having somebody at least 3 days a week who can just help with communications, because that will lead to that whole arena of being able to tell the world and engage people and inspire people and move towards that educational arm of what it is we're going to do. I really want to make sure that there's good information out there for kids and teachers, because they're the future, you know?
I feel that. That's very smart to be able to sort of set yourself up to communicate the story of where you've come so far, and sort of gather that media and the story to communicate to others. I'm really excited for your next chapter. I want to congratulate you again on the new nursery. I wish you all the best in it coming together, especially considering the circumstances of the flooding that you've had recently. I know that's been a
Thank you.
challenge for you. So um, I personally wish you all the best. I'm just wondering if there's any last thing you would want to communicate to the community as far as just anything. Any last sort of things you wanted to mention before we close out for the night? Or I guess for the afternoon in your case.
Right. Wow. Well, I think I've really said it all. And yet I just want to say that I'm grateful that there's a group of people here who are so thoughtfully concerned, that you're paying attention to 13 different organizations and looking at how best you can deploy support to make the world better. So, thank you guys for your work, because it is work. This is your time, this is your energy, and I really appreciate you for that. So, thanks so much for your attention and your time, and for having Rainforest Rescue as part of this coven of potential.
Oh, that's amazing. I'd personally love to have you back on to continue to talk about everything that's going on in your world as things continue to develop, whether in any capacity, because I think it's great to be able to connect and be able to talk about this kind of thing. So
Anytime,
me again
anytime.
with my good words, but no, I appreciate you for coming on, and thank you again.
Right on. Thanks, man. And thanks, everybody. Really, really appreciate it.
All right. So I'll just give the floor over to Specialist Jay if they had any last things to say. Otherwise, I'll invite everybody to not stay here, but you don't have to go home either.
Yeah, that's perfect. Everything's good. Thank you guys all for coming.
Radical.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks again, Brandon. Thank you.
Trees are the answer.
Hashtag.
Woo! All right. Bye.
All right, bye.